private practice registered dietitian and recipe developer Kristen Carli of Camelback Nutrition and Wellness has come up with a cornbread recipe that blends the best of both northern and southern cornbread traditions. It has to be difficult to release an annual game, much less a sports game. Publishers ask their fans to pony up full price for what amounts to a handful of quality of life updates and a flashy new menu, and yet we pony up the cash year in and year out. After the advent of a new console generation ushered in new, more powerful systems, fans expect more, and, unfortunately, we don't always get what we want. With EA's Madden NFL 22, all of the above rings true. But now with the next-gen $10 price hike. Madden NFL 22 goes out of its way to avoid fixing what's broken. According to Feast magazine, in the North, cornbread is crumbly and doesn't have a super sweet taste. It also calls for less yellow cornmeal and eggs than the southern version. The game looks great, and it's easily the best-looking Madden game to date. In the South, this delightful treat is prepared with either yellow or white cornmeal, it's pretty buttery, and it's more cake-like than cornbread you'd find in the North. Carli's recipe is meant to be baked in a cast-iron skillet, not just for tradition's sake, but also because the dietitian sees it as a great opportunity to increase iron intake, especially if your diet is largely plant-based. However, in keeping with northern sensibilities, 1/4 cup of sugar adds a mild sweetness, and unlike traditional southern cornbread, Carli relies on milk rather than buttermilk. In case you're in the mood for a fun baking fact, Carli's choice to use milk rather than buttermilk is why this recipe contains baking powder in addition to the usual baking soda. Gather the ingredients to prepare this cast iron cornbread recipe. This cornbread is awesome, because it really is easy, Carli assures. Just a few minutes of prep work, and in well under an hour, you'll have straight out of the oven, piping hot cornbread to enjoy as a side dish, snack, or even for breakfast. Developer EA Tiburon is milking the Frostbite engine for everything it has, but a gorgeous aesthetic can't make up for the shortcomings in the overall presentation. Beginning with the ugliest menus I've ever seen, Madden NFL 22 seems to do whatever it can to prevent the player from getting into a game. Even the vaunted Madden Ultimate Team mode shackles the player, forcing them to play through missions to unlock the mode itself. Once unlocked, the ability to simply open packs, build a team, and jump into a game is bogged down with menus. To make Carli's cast iron cornbread, you'll need 1 cup each of both flour and cornmeal, 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1½ cups of whole milk, 2 large eggs, and 1 stick of unsalted butter. I spent my first 2 days just trying to unlock Madden NFL 22's meteor sections, as each mode forces you into a tutorial. The butter will need to be melted, but you can do that in the next step, as you'll see. The prep is minimal, but you'll be glad you did it. The importance of preheating your oven cannot be overstated. This is uncalled for in an annual sports game. The between-the-lines gameplay in Madden NFL 22 is another bright spot. That's because there's no easier, or, frankly, pointless, way to dry out and otherwise ruin your baked goods than to place them into a cold oven to warm up along with the ambient temperature inside. So, be sure to preheat your oven to 375 F before you get started on this recipe. And if you want to be extra diligent, use an oven thermometer to double-check that your oven is actually 375 F. Now that your oven is getting hot, you can melt your stick of butter by placing it directly in your cast iron skillet and placing the skillet in the oven for a few minutes. Tiburon revamped the tackling mechanics in what they call Player Movement 2.0, and I've used the hit stick to cause more fumbles in 2 weeks than I had all last season. Crashing into players is fun, and doesn't drag you into a senseless animation. Playing feels freer, which makes the menu fiascos that much more of a sore spot. The catching mechanism is still spotty, as WRs often drop easy passes, even when I hit them in their hands. Allow it to melt for 2 minutes, but remove it from the oven while you can still see a chunk of unmelted butter. I think this is a result of 2 other new features, game day momentum and home field advantage. Playing well, and in front of home fans, triggers new boosts to both the team and individual players. A quick scoring drive or a timely turnover can move the needle during a game and give your team an advantage, or disadvantage, and it trickles down to how the game is played.
This will melt outside the oven, thanks to cast iron's amazing ability to retain heat, but it will also help to lower the temperature of the melted butter. If you are losing and the crowd is giving you heat, players are more apt to run the wrong route, drop a pass, or fumble the ball. On the flip side, breaking a team's back by stealing their home crowd can offer benefits and allow for those miraculous comebacks. These features are easily the best new features to hit the Madden series in years. Tiburon also overhauled the face of the franchise campaign mode as well as the Yard and Superstar co-modes, making them more fun and fast, giving the player more options on how to play the game. Face of the franchise utilizes the X factors and M factors more than ever, and taking your player-created star through a career is better than it has been in recent years, but still not on par with other sports games. In terms of presentation, I'm personally over the announcing team of Brendan Godin and Charles Davis. Their banter, including how it incorporates new real-life issues in the NFL into their commentary, is okay, but neither man gets me excited when I play and serve as more of an annoyance. In addition, there's another secret benefit of melting butter this way, which you're about to find out. Next, combine all of the ingredients, but in 2 mini steps. Next, grab your 9-inch cast iron skillet. Although a well-seasoned cast iron skillet is, by definition, nonstick, best results here call for giving that nonstick surface a boost. But guess what? You've already done that. Simply swirl the butter you melted around to coat the surface, and set it aside while you whisk together the dry ingredients in a large bowl. Then, pour the melted butter over the dry ingredients, add the milk and the eggs, and whisk this well to form a well-combined, if mildly lumpy, batter, as shown. You're just 25 to 30 minutes from fresh, hot, cast iron cornbread. Pour the cornbread batter you just made into your buttered iron skillet, and bake in your preheated oven for 25 minutes. When you play a sports game, you are pretty much guaranteeing to play for hundreds of hours, and announcers are an important part of the experience. Check on it at 25 minutes, and if it's not yet set and golden on top, give it another 5. When it's out of the oven, it will be ready to serve, and Carli suggests serving it with chili or a barbecued meal. In the Madden series, that importance is hamstrung by this crew. Despite some improvements, Madden NFL 22 doesn't do enough to warrant a new game, especially now with the $10 price hike for the next-gen versions. If anything, EA should really consider cutting the price on these annual games by $10, or more, and when, or if, they do an overhaul every 4 or 5 years, then they should charge full price. I love serving cornbread with chili, but of course you can serve it with barbecue, grilled chicken, etc. Carli notes, this model isn't unheard of, as the new Battlefield game is going that route, to an extent, where the game is designed with a multi-year lifespan in lieu of an annual release. Sports games as a whole, including my beloved MLB The Show, should adopt this same mechanic, as justifying $70 for a fresh coat of polish is getting ridiculous. Madden NFL 22 takes a few steps forward where it matters, and it looks gorgeous from top to bottom, but the same old issues and gaudy menus keep it from standing out as it should. Chili and cornbread is such a natural pairing for me. Nothing like a cold rainy day with cornbread and chili. So there you go. Your entire family will love this yummy recipe. 1 stick unsalted butter, melted 1 cup flour, 1 cup cornmeal, 1/4 cup sugar, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, 1 teaspoon salt, 1½ cups whole milk, 2 eggs. Preheat oven to 375 F. Melt the butter, and grease a 9-inch cast iron skillet. In a large bowl, use a whisk to combine the flour, cornmeal, sugar, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Add the whole milk, eggs, and melted butter. EA Sports Madden series is iconic, and it's time for EA to start treating it as such. This coverage is based on time spent with the PlayStation 5 version of Madden NFL 22. A copy was provided by Electronic Arts. Whisk well to combine. Pour the batter into a cast iron skillet. Bake the cornbread for 25 to 30 minutes, until set and golden.